We have a question to both Secretary General and the Commission President. You spoke about how important this critical infrastructure is. Where do you see the main vulnerabilities? How big do you see the threat specifically from Russia to this critical infrastructure? And then second of all, how much more important has this become, especially to the European Union, now that most European Union member states are off Russian gas and turning more towards gas from Norway?
Well, maybe I can start. First of all, this infrastructure is extremely important. It's vital, but that makes it also vulnerable, not least because of the sheer size. We speak about thousands of kilometers of pipelines, gas and oil, but also other kinds of internet cable, power cables. So in totality, this is an enormous amount of infrastructure. Meaning that, of course, we cannot protect every meter of this infrastructure at every time. But what we do is that we have stepped up what we do when it comes to exchanging intelligence information, more closely monitoring the infrastructure. Then we have increased our presence with more military capabilities. And then the plan is also now to exercise more to be able to react fast if something happens. One thing which is illustrated by the task force we have established and the enhanced vigilance NATO allies are now showing when it comes to protecting critical undersea infrastructure is that we work more closely with the private sector, companies like Equinor. And Equinor and the CEO actually came to the NATO headquarters, briefed the North Atlantic Council, because we know that the private companies, they have key capabilities which are essential for the protection of this infrastructure. When it comes to importance of the European Union, I leave that to Ursula.
Yes, thank you. Indeed, critical infrastructure is of critical importance to all of us, and we have decided to start together with the EU-NATO joint task force to protect the critical infrastructure, to look at our vulnerabilities, for example, at vulnerabilities in the energy sector or the transport sector, but also digital and space is important. It is, first of all, about having a mutual awareness about what the threats are, a common analysis about the strengths and the weaknesses, and then to develop together a different solution for better protection. And as I said, as we have different angles with which we look at different theaters, joining forces, of course, widens our possibilities to protect our critical infrastructure. And this infrastructure here, speaking of Norway and the importance for the European Union, it is of high importance. So we have seen how critical and crucial it was for the European Union to make it through the winter, that Norway stepped up its production. And this was, of course, through this infrastructure that is in place. So we were in a clear crisis, and we were able to react rapidly and actively to this crisis thanks to this critical infrastructure.
And then the last question to NRK.
My question is regarding the prices of gas and oil, especially gas, which has led to a lot of discomfort around Europe. What do you see Norway's role in lowering these prices, keeping them acceptably low? Have you had any talks with the Prime Minister about this question?
So first of all, why have the prices skyrocketed? This was not a normal market anymore. This was a manipulated market. And lots of speculation in. Because when the prices last summer exploded, this was because President Putin took off 100 billion cubic meters of gas off the global market. And of course, this tightened enormously the market. This was a strategic decision of President Putin, and this was not a normal market reaction. The moment we acted in unity, the European Union with friends and allies, to diversify away from Russia, to compensate, prices went down. This is point number one. So point number two, we are just tabling as European Union an electricity market reform, and we have created a joint energy platform to make it possible for our suppliers to have the aggregated demand of the European Union. For example, for Norway to join this platform as a supplier. And the aim is not only to have the spot market, but to look at long-term contracts that are beneficial for both sides. And with that, we have the consumer at the core of our action, and this is what brings us together.
Yeah. Let me say that Norway is served by stable prices. We don't set prices for gas, and these volatile high prices is not in Norway's interest. Directly for Norway, because gas prices drive electricity prices, which are very high for Norwegian consumers, and that's a burden on them and on industry. Secondly, it's not good for our partners in Europe. They are our allies and our trading partners. So one contribution has been to increase our export, has contributed to bringing prices down. And I take note of the fact that the companies operating on the shelf are in close contact with the European partners on more long-term agreements, following very closely what happens on the purchasing side. And we've had political contact on this also between the Commission and the Norwegian government to see what we can do to contribute to more stability. Prices have come down, but as the President said, it is basically because there is now more energy coming in. And that's what we have to see to, that we now can also push in more renewable energy to help stabilize the markets.